Thank you for being here with us!
Hello, I'm Shanta Thake, Lincoln Center's Chief Artistic Officer. Last month, together with more than 300 partners across New York City, we celebrated the launch of the first ever Festival of New York. Festival of New York is a summer-long celebration of everything that makes this the greatest city in the world, and a call to residents and visitors alike to come together to fuel the city's recovery. The organizations participating in the festival have missions that range from arts and culture to food to business to education. These museums, libraries, small businesses, nonprofits, and coalitions are the engines that drive New York City. When a few New Yorkers first dreamed up this citywide movement about a comeback, community, and collaboration, we forged lasting relationships that will continue long beyond this summer, with engagements including the New York City Blood Center's Meet the Need blood drive, a citywide career fair, and Lincoln Center Summer for the City Festival. Visit festivalofnewyork.com to learn more. One of our partners in Festival of New York is Manhattan Neighborhood Network, who have graciously invited us to their studios to showcase a few of the programs we can look forward to this summer. Today, I'm joined by New York Public Library and the Brooklyn Public Library. Both together and separately, the city's public library networks are putting on Festival of New York programming that goes far beyond what you'd traditionally expect from a library. From New York Public Library, we have Aidan Flax-Clark, and from Brooklyn Public Library, Fritzi Bodenheimer. Welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
It's so wonderful to have you here. It's been so incredible to be in these weekly and monthly conversations about what is Festival of New York and how do we come together in this time. I think we first all really coalesced around these three themes of comeback, collaboration, and community, because those are all things we had been talking about in our individual organizations for a long time. So I wonder if we want to first start talking about that, and then we'll go into some examples of what we're doing as part of Festival of New York. Fritzi, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, when I think back to the beginning of the pandemic, when things were really dire and we had to close our doors, we really had to come together and collaborate to sort of make our services available. So many people depend on their libraries. So even that very first weekend we were closed, we were up and running with an online story time. And I think it's something that we've learned, right? That throughout the pandemic, we've been able to adapt, to be outdoors, to be online, to be inside when we can. And that's been really valuable. We've been able to reach into Brooklyn, but also beyond. We've had story times that have gone viral all around the world. So that's been a great and exciting lesson. And I think, that idea of comeback, we've really worked on that. So we know that a lot of people lost jobs or lost hours. So we moved our resume service when we had to online, right? We kept our Wi-Fi on, and we actually extended our signal by putting towers on our branches throughout the borough.
That's incredible.
Because we know there's a digital divide, and in a pandemic, right, it's worse. You can't look for work, you can't make your vaccine appointment. Mm-hmm. So these themes that you've hit on, I think, are important to all of us in the library and in the city as a whole.
Yeah, and I think just maybe to back up a little bit, if you don't know how vast the library system is in New York, I think it's worth just giving a little bit of a primer on Queens Public Library, Brooklyn Public Library, and New York Public Library together take care of all 5 boroughs, but how many branches does that really look like?
So I'm so happy that you brought this up, because in New York City, we are so lucky that we actually have 3 library systems, NYPL, BPL, and QPL, and we have over 200 branches all across 5 boroughs, and just how lucky are we to be able to have those resources?
No, it's such an invaluable resource, and I think in that moment where everything had to pivot, it became so clear what these shared resources really look like, right?
So much so, and that you could, walk a few blocks, pretty much anywhere you live in New York, you can walk a few blocks and you can take out books, you can sit in on a class, you can learn a new skill, you can meet your neighbors. Mm-hmm. It's all for free. That's just incredibly valuable.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Aidan, do you want to talk a little bit about what has happened at New York Public Library and all that you've been working on over this time?
Well, how long you got? I mean, yeah, you know, community and collaboration are kind of at the heart of our mission before the pandemic, during the pandemic, whatever will be after the pandemic. So it's so wonderful to have those be a part of the sort of festival ethos, because it really is at the heart of everything we do.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you know, bringing kids together for story times, you know, making books available, extending Wi-Fi, all of these things bring people together. They bring people into the library. They, you know, let them gain the knowledge that we offered everyone for free. You know, since the pandemic, of course, we were online like everybody else, but speaking of comeback, you know, we've been able to come back to in-person programming since February of this year, which has been amazing to bring people back in, to hear amazing authors, to listen to music, to see performances. You know, online programming was great, but there's just nothing like people in a room together experiencing arts and culture, you know?
Yeah. No, it's amazing. So now we'll dig into a little bit of exactly that, the arts and culture that is at the center of so much of what you're doing this summer. Festival of New York, we have probably thousands of events with over 300 partners now. Two of those are all tri-li, which I love that that phrase.
It's a real inside baseball word.
It's an inside baseball word, but now we're opening it up. And so tri-li is when all three library systems collaborate together. And we've got a couple different examples of that. One is This is New York, which is actually spearheaded by the Queens Night Market. Our incredible partners, and I think everybody got really energized by the conversation that was had around how do we celebrate immigrant culture in New York. It's such a huge part of what makes New York, New York. And so from June 11th through June 21st, there's been this uprising of all of these incredible different programs, everything from culinary arts to painting to everything you can imagine celebrating immigrant communities, and all of the library systems have participated in that. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about those specific examples.
Yeah, sure. Queens Night Market is amazing. What John's doing with this is so great. And New York Public Library has a fairly significant immigrant services division as part of its regular operating procedure. We offer all kinds of classes to people learning English, all kinds of services for people who are new to this country to help them get citizenship. We hold a citizenship ceremony at the library every year, so to be a part of this is really just so perfect. And a couple of things we're doing, we have a great traditional Chinese painting class that's happening at the Chatham Square branch in Chinatown, and then also up in the Bronx at the Kingsbridge branch, a celebration of West African music, which looks really, really awesome, and I'm bummed that I'm not going to be there.
Yeah, and we're also getting involved with our community cooking program, which is super fun, and you don't need a library card or an Instagram account, but that's where it takes place. And one of our librarians who really had not done anything like this before, she'd never been on camera, but she loved to cook, and so she's been sort of spearheading that from her home kitchen. We crowdsource recipes from different cultures from our patrons, and then she, about a week ahead, puts all the ingredients online so you can get it and cook at home with our librarian on Instagram. And it's super fun, and you can get some great recipes, and she's really energetic and knowledgeable about cooking.
That's amazing. My mom, when I was a kid, taught an Indian cooking class. I lived in a town called Eagle River, Wisconsin, which did not have a large Indian population. And my mom taught an Indian cooking class there in the library. And so
that's amazing. Yeah.
I guess this is just the natural coming together of the culinary arts and libraries, obviously.
It's collaboration.
That's right, but there's nothing better than also reading a cookbook. I love reading cookbooks. I feel like that's such a, a fun, different kind of way of looking at that. And certainly we all did a lot more cooking. I did a lot more cooking over the past couple of years than I have in the last, however many years of my life before that. So that's amazing. The other thing that Aidan, you really spearheaded at New York Public Library is an incredible idea that I think would not be exactly the first thing on your mind when you think of what are the libraries doing to come together in this time.
No, not the 14th even, maybe. We're putting together a citywide dance party on Saturday, August 6th. Although I will say again, community is at the heart of the library's mission, and this is very much an effort to create community all across the city. So what it is on Saturday, August 6th, in all 5 boroughs at right now more than 60 locations, there are going to be dance parties, all kinds of dance parties, silent discos, salsa bands. We're throwing a big K-pop dance party in front of the library. And it's just a moment, we hope, for people to come out and celebrate themselves and each other, to have a moment of togetherness and just some much needed joy. Yeah. And hopefully it will be the biggest dance party in New York City history. That's what I keep telling people anyway.
I think it absolutely will be, if everyone participates. So we just need everyone in New York to participate.
Yeah, just that.
But I do think it's one of those ideas at the beginning when this coalition was just forming and we were starting to think about what can we all do together that we can't do separately.
Yeah.
And that was one of those ideas that just felt like it caught hold right away, and everybody thought, well, we could do that. We could put up a speaker, and we have this little, park that we work in sometimes. We can do this in our office. We can do this, obviously, at Lincoln Center.
Yeah.
We built a giant dance floor on the plaza this year, so we couldn't not be a part of it. And I think that also this idea of dance in this time, and really, what are the things that we haven't been able to do together in a long time? So coming together in this really joy-filled way, and cementing this idea that New York is back, New York is better than ever, getting the city to really feel comfortable meeting their neighbors again and spending time together felt really exciting.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, those dance parties that broke out that first summer, they were so amazing and beautiful, and it was like really one of those first moments where people could kind of be together again, and to, to honor that and to kind of like cement its legacy and hopefully to make it even bigger, just feels like a really powerful thing to do. And the network that the festival built, is amazing, but like it couldn't have happened without that network of people, which is such an incredible force, to just, like you said, it's a simple proposition, but you need to be able to leverage that network of all those people to give it to them and for them to give it to other people and to keep it growing, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. It's amazing. And that just reminds me that we had a festival call last week and we were hearing about some of the great success stories from the This Is New York, from the immigrant celebration that happened, all of the things that happened at Ellis Island and in parks across the city, and things that these were going to happen most likely separately, but the idea that they could actually go to each other's events, learn about other immigrant cultures that they can bring back into their institutions, and then see these audiences really have this much larger experience than you would have if you had just gone to one event, but really be able to build up this series of experiences that teach you so much about the wealth that immigrants bring to our country. So. Yeah. It's such a beautiful way of really expanding. It's one thing to have a great idea, but to really be building through everybody else's networks and neighborhoods and add on to that. And that's part of what makes New York great any day of the week.
Absolutely.
Anything else that you want to share about things that you're doing this summer?
So I'll just build off of yours. Our August 6th dance party is going to be on the Central Library Plaza. It's a great place where we have performances all summer long, and we have DJ Max Glazer coming. Amazing. He's performed for some pretty big names, was Rihanna's musical director. Maybe you've heard of her. Yeah. Went on tour with her, and we've had him come before. Nobody throws a better party. We've actually seen people get out of their cars on Eastern Parkway and jump in. Mm-hmm. So we just cannot wait. We don't want summer to go too fast, but we can't wait for that date.
And it so happens it's the 60th anniversary of Jamaican independence that day, and he's playing reggae and dancehall. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Gosh, it's going to be insane. Yeah. I live right around there, so I can just imagine. I'm not going to drive anywhere that day. I'm going to be walking everywhere that day. That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be in all 3 library systems with the dance party at Lincoln Center, Coney Island, Wave Hill, Jamaica Queens, all over Manhattan. There's going to be parks, open streets, plazas. I mean, it's going to be all over the place. So it's going to be a thing. It's going to be fun.
I love that. Have you gotten your outfit picked out already?
No, I'm going to let my daughters pick out my outfit. I'll wear whatever they tell me.
That's always the best.
That'll be perfect.
That's always the best idea. So Aiden, when we first got together as this then small coalition of folks thinking about how we could collaborate, what were some big ideas that maybe could be a little bit bigger from this, coalition of people gathered, you were one of the first people to bring an idea to the table. So what was that like, and what was the idea, and how did it scale based on that conversation?
It was super nerve-wracking because those festival calls are amazing and have been one of the great joys of the last year. I have to say, for people who don't know, we get on these Zoom calls. There are hundreds of people from all over the city on there, all there to work together on this Festival of New York. So the atmosphere couldn't be warmer, and you all run a beautiful, lovely meeting. That said, you come out to people with this idea that feels like a little insane and a little unreachable, and then you're just like, hey, do you all want to have a giant dance party on the same day? It's a little nerve-wracking, but the response was immediately super positive. People were chatting me in the Zoom, sending their email addresses, like really excited, like from the jump, which was really inspiring. What I think the best part about it was that I started with a really fixed idea, which was at the same day, at the same time, everybody dances to the same music. And that felt like it would be kind of a real great conduit for creating unity. But what I quickly learned was that idea wasn't good. And I learned that through talking to all these people in the festival network and through collaborating with them and listening to their feedback about the idea and helping change it over time. And the reason that wasn't good is because they're like, sure, but like, what if you're only playing hip hop and there's like a community of salsa musicians in the Bronx and they feel excluded? Or, what if it feels like fascistic for like a library to be like, hey, everyone listen to the same music, which totally made sense. So over time, there were all these little things like that that really changed it into what it now is, which is it's on one day, but at all different times, for all different kinds of communities, all different types of parties, all different types of music. And I think that makes it hopefully as inclusive as it can possibly be and as open to as many people as possible. We're even going to try and put a playlist out that's being curated by librarians at our Performing Arts Library so that even if you can't make it, you can have your dance party at home by yourself with your family, your roommates, whatever. And none of that would have happened without being able to work with this network and collaborate so openly with so many people, which was really incredible.
That's incredible. So we have how many partners already signed up to do something on that day?
Well, we have, let's say, about 30 or so partners, but across those partners, we have over 60 locations, and it's growing. And so we're working with Brooklyn Public Library, Queens Public Library, Lincoln Center. We're working with the DOT Open Streets and Public Plazas program. Hopefully we might work with parks. I'm saying it out loud because we keep asking them and they seem interested. And so many amazing.
And with this playlist, I mean, I think you could easily announce that we have hundreds of thousands of
correct
locations,
yes.
right? Now, everyone in their apartment is going to be dancing on August 6th.
That's right.
No matter what. If you can't find a public space, you better be dancing in your apartment.
That's right. That's right. I love it. Yeah, so we'll have upward of 1 million locations, I guess.
Yeah, perfect. Just right. Just right. And it feels, I mean, I will say, like, part of this collaboration moment is that you do end up with an idea that feels like New York. You get this much bigger, broader scope of, oh, this is how this idea will work in my community.
Yeah.
This is what actually speaks to my neighborhood or my constituents or my law firm. The partners are so vast too. We're all working in culture, obviously in the libraries, but there's so many other partners, the New York City Blood Bank, the Idealist, working on a career fair with LinkedIn, and there's so many other of these beautiful collaborations, just thinking about what does the city really need and how can we bring. And I think the Citywide Dance Party is obviously going to be such a beacon of joy for all of us, and I think there's nothing more that we need right now, obviously.
The weather will be perfect.
And the weather will be perfect.
Yeah, just putting that out there too.
Yeah, I think it's always good to light a candle.
Tell it to the sky gods.
That's right.
Mother Nature.
That's right. Well, thank you all for joining in this conversation. This has been really amazing.
Thanks, Shanta.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Shanta Thake, Chief Artistic Officer at Lincoln Center, and I'm joined here today by Aidan Fox-Clark from the New York Public Library and Emily Miller from Manhattan Neighborhood Network. And we're here because we were at the beginning of this coalition of people from around New York City thinking about what can we do together coming out of this pandemic? What can we do for New York? And what was birthed in those first conversations was this idea of Festival of New York. So we're going to just talk a little bit about that genesis and then how it's grown to what it is today. We recently announced in Brooklyn Bridge Park, and the mayor was there with us, Mayor Adams, announcing over 300 partners that have joined us, cross-sector from everywhere in New York. So how did we get there? How did it start? What was the beginning of this story?
Sure. Well, I think, Aiden, you came on before I did, before MNN did. But I remember hearing about the festival, hearing about the concept of it, and not knowing necessarily what it would look like or even what our part or participation might be. But it sounded an awful lot like something that we should be a part of and wanted to be a part of. And, was impressed from the start that I jumped into these regular calls with over sometimes 200 participants on Zoom, and they were well facilitated, yet collaborative, and it just was such a pleasure to see the ideas evolve from sort of a blank shared spreadsheet of ideas, which is really what it was, into things actually launching and taking place and planned for throughout the summer.
Yeah, I think our first call was in September, perhaps, and Aiden, you were on that first call.
Yeah.
What do you, time is so bizarre now. What do you remember about September?
Well, I'll tell you what I remember about that call was feeling really inspired by seeing all these people come together with no self-interest past collaborating and coming together to celebrate the city and the arts and culture and all the facets of the city. And that was it. That's what they wanted to do. And that spirit has carried through since that first call, but I definitely, that first time seeing it was really, really inspiring.
Yeah, and so we should say, maybe as a starting point, Festival of New York as what it's grown into since that epic, very overwhelming blank Excel sheet, very blank Excel sheet, is now hundreds of events over all 5 boroughs, really looking at how do we celebrate what it means to be in New York. So we've been thinking a lot about what those themes were, and where we landed was collaborate, comeback, and community, which felt like 3 themes that everybody really could get behind as a way of how do we not only celebrate New York, but also build back New York. And it was just such a generative place to start. And Aiden, you had this incredible idea for a citywide dance party right at the top, but ideas came in from all over, and I think really unexpected places. So do you want to talk a little bit about how you found it to actually bring an idea into the space?
Yeah, I would say that it was really heartening, to kind of put yourself out there with a weird idea and just have it so readily embraced. And not only embraced, but people took active interest in it. They very, very quickly, it became a very collaborative process of figuring out how to make it better from where it started. And you just can't do that without this very kind of open network of people who are all they want to do is come together.
Yeah. And I loved the idea of coming into this a little bit later with seeing all of these sectors together too. I think that was probably the most exciting thing for me, is being on a call with not just arts and culture leaders, but also the Manhattan Neighborhood Network, also the Parks Department, also the New York City Blood Center, also, on and on and on, but all of these different pieces of what it actually takes to make up a city.
Yeah, I think oftentimes, in the before times, right, we sort of operated, at least in the nonprofit sector, in a really competitive landscape. And I think what's been so wonderful about participating in the Festival of New York planning and now execution is that it's come from that generative and additive mindset, and that it's really become a shift from a philosophy of scarcity and competition to one of abundance. That it's become a point of connection for organizations from, Lincoln Center down to organizations of one. And I've had so many follow-up conversations, emails, and phone calls after, even one with Aiden, where we said, I've not met you before. What can our organizations do together? And that's what's been so exciting for not just the festival, but hopefully beyond it as well.
Yeah, I think we were all, I think like most people, became part of these unlikely coalitions during the pandemic, especially at the beginning where none of us knew really what was going on, and you're trying to find other organizations that were perhaps competitors in the past or perceived competitors, and then to be able to really have to share information just to help one another out, understand how we're dealing with this virus, how audiences are coming, what are your protocols, all, really granular operational things, to then start to move that into a space like this, which has been just really much more in a spirit of joy and being able to take the beginnings of those relationships and really take them further. And it's been amazing to see how those, not just coalitions, but really friendships are developing across the city, across boroughs that you wouldn't expect to be working with each other, because I think New York is such a neighborhood city too. You kind of can stay in your neighborhood your entire life. So for ourselves to really think beyond that has been really beautiful. Is there any things that you're particularly looking forward to in Festival of New York?
I'm just looking forward to, personally, as a citizen of the city of New York, I'm just looking forward to seeing and learning about all the amazing organizations that exist. I know even participating in the design and execution of the festival, I haven't even seen a drop of what's going to happen from these hundreds, if not, 1,000-something events that are going on. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's happening in my neighborhood of Washington Heights. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in all 5 boroughs. And I am really looking forward to the partnerships continuing beyond.
Aiden, anything you're looking forward to?
I mean, I'm pretty excited about the dance party. I just have to say it one more time. I'm excited to go and discover this summer, really. The This Is New York activation that we talked about was so amazing, and there's just so many surprises in this festival that I think it just fills me with delight to kind of trip upon something new. So that's what I'm excited about, is discovering something new.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I think there's, I know that we're celebrating bringing back together again BAND, which is the 5 dance companies, Ballet Hispanico, ABT, El Vanelli, the Dance Theater of Harlem, and City Ballet, all coming together to do 5 performances at Lincoln Center. And then this year they're actually having a choreographer create something for all 5 of them together. So I think that's just like another example of sort of collaboration within a collaboration within a collaboration that I'm very excited about. I'm also excited about all of the Discover Parks and Open Spaces in New York, because I think, especially during this time, it's been such an amazing gift to recognize what our parks and open spaces are for us as New Yorkers, and how valuable those are, and how to even discover sort of hidden gems, and then how do we take care of them. So I'm excited about all of those. Well, it's been such a pleasure to spend this time with you, and to know that this is just the beginning of how we'll all be working together for New York for the years to come. Thank you for coming together in this way. It's been so amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here today.